Hello, everybody. So I'm going to do a little series here. It's going to be broke up over several different videos, but the whole goal is to answer questions that have been posed to us over the years, maybe frequently, maybe years ago, and answer them. It's one of the things that I believe education is the key to a lot of what we're working on. And so if I can answer these questions and put some of these concerns to bed, I'm all about that. So with that being said, number one question that we get a lot is, hey, let's not damage the ocean. We already do enough damage here on land. Why are we going to be messing with the oceans? And yeah, I get it. Humanity has had a history of messing a lot of stuff up, and we continue to do so. But I believe that it's fairly unwarranted. I think there's some mitigating factors, especially when it comes to underwater habitats, that we can address. And I think one of the great things is because, unlike on land, you're confined to that underwater habitat for most of the time. So you can't be just like littering outside like you do here on land, or you're driving by throwing stuff out your window. It's going to be a little bit more controlled than that. Not saying we still can't litter and still can't do damage, but I don't think it's going to be as bad. And I think the positive to it too is that it's going to be in your face, I think, a little bit more as far as the effects of it. There's not going to be cleanup crews out there like there is here on land. But I don't want to get down that path too much because I don't think that's going to be a big concern. I think that what we're going to do is actually blow people's minds, because by placing habitats under the water, we're able to strap sensors to them, cameras to them, monitor the environment around there, watch what's good and what's bad, and be able to adjust it to that. We can grow coral beds there on the base of the habitat, around the windows, which will attract marine life. So what that means is, yes, the habitat at first is going to disrupt the environment. Anytime you put anything foreign into an environment, there's disruption. But over the months, the years that the thing is sitting there, it's going to bring an ecosystem with it that may not have ever been there before. So while at first there's disruption, from that chaos, you're going to create this great marine sanctuary per se, partnering with coral restoration groups and different marine sanctuaries. Underwater habitats will be able to expand and grow more than what we are currently doing with what we have. So it's going to be a great thing for the oceans, I believe, more so than what we're doing here on land with anything we're trying to do here. Number two question. This actually could have been number one too, but the question that comes up is, where's all the waste go? Once again, going back to the ecology of the whole thing, is human waste. What happens to it? When you go to the bathroom, do all those type of things. And fortunately, underwater habitats, especially as smaller ones, we've got the benefit that we've had decades and decades of technology for boats that we can use. There's different avenues you can go there too. A lot of people think of dry composting toilets and stuff along those lines. I'm not a huge fan of that, because that's not part of the vision I have for ASC, but that is always an option, especially early on. And there's even different ways that, underwater hotels like Jules Undersea Lodge, they address it. And we can get very technical on all that, but suffice it to say that there's different technologies out there existing to address this needs. And there's ones that are upon the horizons that other organizations I know are working on to make the marine toilet and the marine experience almost space age. And so I don't think it's not as big of a concern as people tend to think it is. So really, do not be concerned. We're not dumping stuff in the ocean. It will be taken care of in a sane way. All right. So why the oceans? Why not space? What's your problem with space? And we don't have any problem with space. I mean, oftentimes, you know, Adam and I will talk about it. We had Dennis Chamberlain on years ago, and we spent a whole entire section of their podcast video format thing. I'm just talking about space. So I think that thus in all this, it's technology, it's futurism, it's things we all enjoy. So it's not like we got anything against it. My problem is that I don't think space is the final frontier that people think it is. I think that short of something massive happening to humanity, without getting too technical into the whole thing, like I've said multiple times in these, I think that we have some serious hurdles to overcome that I believe that are greater than we technologically can handle at this point in time. That being said, the ocean is still a very alien environment. We know more about Mars, we know more about the moon than we do about our oceans. We've only mapped or explored less than 10% of the oceans, and yet here it is at our back door. I think that us dropping underwater habitats in there and starting to monitor things, more eyes on what's going on. Who knows what's down there? It is a truly alien environment. There is life down there, I'm sure, that we have never seen before. There could be the cures for diseases or the advancements for different things underwater that we just don't have the time and resources to explore. You look at the budget differences between space and the ocean, and you see there's a huge discrepancy there. So I think that the oceans are our final frontier. I think that for the foreseeable future, more time and money and people need to be invested in there. And so for that, that's why we're here. That's why we're focused on this. Now, space and the oceans have always had a symbiotic relationship of a sort where we take from each other. NASA has used underwater habitats for training for years because it's a weightless environment that's secluded, just like you would have on the space station. And likewise, technologies that have been developed for space were able to supplement and put in underwater habitats. So it's not like it's not one-sided, but I think that bang for the buck, underwater makes a whole lot more sense. And while I'm not saying we completely throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to space, I definitely think that we need to be focusing a little bit more on what is right off our shores versus what's out there in space for the time being. Okay, so you're building underwater habitats. How am I supposed to get down there? That's a great question. Up until now, all underwater habitats and hotels. I will preface this by saying there's a bunch of places out there that label themselves as underwater hotels that are actually just rooms attached to a hotel or a bungalow or something along those lines that you can walk down into. And so technically they may be underwater hotels, but when I think of it, I think when most people think of underwater hotels, it's completely separated out. It is its own thing underwater. So for the sake of this discussion, that's what we're talking about. Anyway, up to this point, most of them you've had to scuba dive down to get to them. They are completely separated off. There is no, submarine that can take you down to it and dock. There is no stairwell or elevator or tube or whatever. So I will say this: while long term, the goal is that ASC's goal, our pure existence from the standpoint of design, is that if my grandma can't go underwater, can't spend the night in an underwater hotel, then it's not right. I want you to be able to vacation, to live, to even work underwater without having to get wet. It needs to be as easy as going to work, going to a hotel now. It has to be frictionless. You should be able to put your flip-flops on, your shorts, your shirt, walk out and go into your underwater room, take a nap, take a shower, whatever, watch some TV. Hey, I'm hungry. I want to go do something. You just stroll on up to land, just as easy as that, without having to put on scuba equipment. That is the goal. How soon is that going to be feasible? The technology is already there. It's, once again, just a financial thing. So at the beginning, it will be still scuba based. you will have to scuba dive down to it. It's just a financial thing at this point in time, unless some very deep pocketed investors come along. That's most likely how we'll first start off. Plus, a lot of the dive community really wants this, so they enjoy that aspect anyway. That's part of the experience, is to scuba dive down and come up into your room. I think when I went to Jules, it was the first time I dove down and came up under this thing into this underwater habitat underwater. It's part of the experience. And even some of the people I've talked to that even the yeah, not having to scuba dive down, that's great. They still want the possibility to scuba dive if need be. So that will have to be designed in at later versions as well. And that's not a big deal. So that's kind of where we're at with the whole design element, is scuba first, then don't get wet. Okay, where are we putting these things? That's another question that comes up, is where are these going to be located? And again, we tried to, with the R&D and with designing this, we're trying to simplify things as much as possible, because simplification while keeping it safe cuts down on costs and allows us to produce these more cost effectively, which then we can get them into the hands of people more cost effectively. So at first, we've already talked to a couple, dive rock quarries here in the United States. And we'll probably be looking at doing one of those first. First off, it's fresh water and it's controlled environment. Don't have to worry about, waves and ships and everything else that comes into play with it. It's a controlled environment where we can monitor different aspects. Yes, it may not be as pristine outside and what people are looking for, but it allows us to troubleshoot and perfect a lot of what we're trying to do with some design elements that haven't been done before. So that is our first goal, is to do that. And then at that point in time, to move out into, coves and bays and stuff along those lines. It's still a little more protected. Obviously, I am very partial to areas of the world like Belize or Honduras, because you've got lots of dive communities down there. And anywhere you've got a good dive community, you're going to have a great marine life. And then really that's what we're looking for as well, is we want the people who are staying there to wake up to this amazing view outside their window. So that's what we're looking at at first. We have been contacted with people with private islands about, hey, how soon can you have one of these? And so there is a desire for this stuff in different environments, whether it's even a private home, private hotel, whatever. There has been interest over the years in this, and we'll just kind of see where it goes from there. Another concern I think that pops up is hurricanes. Anytime you're dealing with anything in the water, especially in the ocean, you have to think about those. And I'll tell a story that it's been probably a decade ago, that Aquarius, which is an underwater science research laboratory located several miles off the coast of Florida, it's about 66 feet underwater. So about 20 meters, that it got a hurricane went over it, and it actually slightly damaged it at that depth. So it is a concern. It was a huge hurricane, so it was abnormal. Other hurricanes have gone over and not affected it per se, but it brings up the question, is what do you do? Because you don't always predict on where hurricanes are going to be, especially if you're looking at the Caribbean or someplace along those lines. So there's two avenues to go. One, you put them in places where they're typically not hurricanes. The closer to the equator you get, the less of a chance you've got that happening. So that is number one. Or you make it so that you can move the habitat in that case. And that's one of the design elements that ASE is working on, is to make it so that it can be moved temporarily if need be, primarily for the reasons for repairs or different challenges that may arise, but also as a backup for having to move the thing. So those are a couple of different ways you can address this. Or I guess the third one is to go deep, and you have to be at least, I would think at least if that one at 66 feet damaged it, probably at least 100 foot underwater. So how deep are they going to go? How deep is underwater habitats going to be? Well, we've had them at multiple depths right now, but the problem is they weren't designed for the everyday person. They weren't designed they were designed for science research, and that's not at all what ASC is doing. Now, that being said, our habitats could definitely be used for that, and I foresee they will be used as that method. But I think that, with the mindset that, hey, this is for the everyday person, whether they're working or living there or vacationing there, how deep should we go? And really, you want to be in that sweet spot there around, anywhere from 30 to maybe 100-foot water. You've got good light, you've got good visibility, you've got a lot of marine life in that area. So that's where you want to be. At first, we're not going to be deeper than 30 foot. I'll just tell you that. I think there's engineering reasons for that you don't want to go too much deeper than that at first, as well as it just makes the coming and going a whole lot easier as well. So, you're looking at less than 10 meters, less than 30 feet. That's where Jules Undersea Lodge is located as around those depths. That is a perfect spot to be at for these type of habitats. That being said, we are always looking at going deeper. We've got designs for much deeper for different purposes. It's engineering wise, it's all been done before. So it just boils down to the shallower. Also, you can do it for, you don't have to design and engineer as much, so it's cheaper too. So obviously, that's a plus as well. So yes, to answer the question, I would say most of them will be at a sub 30 foot, sub 10 meter depth underwater. All right, here's a hard one for me. Is the question that gets asked a lot is, hey, you've been talking about this, where you at? Why don't you have anything to show for it? You're right. We've been talking about it for years. This has been a vision of mine for 30 years. I came up with the idea back in high school. So it's something that's been on my mind for a long time. And never in a million years that I figured it was going to take this long to do or this hard to do. That being said, I am grateful that I didn't have the funding even 10 years ago, with what I thought I knew then versus what I know now, having networked as heavily as I have with some of these people in the industry and talking to different people, redefining the designs and the engineering and the goals behind ASC. But to answer the question, where are we? I would like to think we're a whole lot further along than we have been a year, 2 years ago. We're always learning. We're always building relationships. The conversation I had with Fabian Cousteau last year was, hey, he's in the same, it's not necessarily the same boat because he's Fabian Cousteau, but finances. It all comes down to that. At the end of the day, it's the almighty dollar. And I'm not using it as an excuse, but it basically is where a lot of it comes down to. That's why we are working, as I speak, on looking at doing a scaled down version of the habitat to just show off what the intentions are, some of the designs behind it, some of the engineering behind it. And we have something tangible that we can put on video and on film and on pictures, to show that here's what ASC is working at doing and what we're wanting to do. I believe that'll bring some more credibility to what we're trying to do, because it's easy to have pictures and it's easy to talk. And a lot of people have done that, and a lot of people continue to do that. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. We're always looking at partnering up. I have calls regularly with different people around the world that are working on similar projects that we just hash out ideas and talk together, because we're all in the same boat. It's a huge ocean out there, and there's plenty of water for us to all be building underwater habitats. So it's not a competition per se. I believe that it may take one of us to be the first ones to do it, to open the news up to, hey, maybe I do need an underwater habitat. And then they can start looking and, hey, ASC's been out there talking about this for years. So I think we have that going for us. Plus, I believe that our designs are modular, which is, I think, insanely important. Um, and we're poised at a one atmosphere habitat, unlike saturation diving. So I'm not trying to get off on the soapbox here about why I think we're better. I definitely think we have some stuff going for us. That being said, it is all about finding those investors and finding those partners. And at this point in time, there's nothing on the table. If somebody came along and wanted to partner up, I would be all ears, as long as we coincide with our views and our beliefs. And that sometimes seems to be an issue in this niche that we're in. So you may ask, how can you help? Because we get that a lot. Is People want to help, they want to be involved in something great, except especially something like this. Um, that's moving forward. Um, and there's tons of different ways you can help. Obviously, just following our social media accounts, liking, sharing, commenting. That definitely helps the algorithm and helps get our name out there. We have a Discord community where we got people in there talking all the time. Come join us in there. It's good fun. And your ideas are always welcome in there. We've got some crazy ideas thrown around in there that aren't even underwater habitat related, but it's just fun. We also have a Patreon community, and although that's not large, it is a avenue where, for as little as $5 a month, you can hop in there and you can actually be a financial help to what ASE is doing. That right now has helped us with some R&D costs, has helped us with some just office help, whether it's software related, marketing related, whatever. It's those Patreon members have definitely helped move ASE ahead from where it would be if it was just up to my funding that I've been doing over the years. So those are different ways. Obviously, if you know an investor, you are an investor, all ears as well. So there's multiple different ways that you can help us move forward and get this done. The sooner the better. I always look forward to conversations, and I hope that you see this, you reach out to us, and we can make something happen.